tonight is to talk about Office tools. In particular, I wanted to offer to share some of the tools that our computer helping company uses. We've done this before. We've never ever gotten to the end of the list. There's so many tools that are an important part of running a business. So we only hope that we'll be able to explore some of them. I think password management is such an underserved area that I think it's great for us to be exploring it. And so why don't we begin there? It's a very good place to begin. So what I'm going to do is do a screen share here. I also, while I'm at it, as I often do, and a lot of us often do, is talk about the very tools that we're using in order to do the meeting. So you may observe that I'm sharing a screen, but it's not the screen of the computer I'm using. And it turns out this is an extremely convenient way of using Zoom, and I recommend it. So for those of you who are blessed, as we are, with several computers to work with and are accessible by remote control, I'm remoting into the second computer. And so as you see, you can see me moving my stuff around. So the beauty of this approach is that if you do a screen share in Zoom and you change anything about the screen share, you change the program you're using, you open up a new window, somebody says something really interesting, so you want to open a browser and show them it breaks the share. You probably all, if you've hosted a meeting, you've had this experience. I find it extraordinarily annoying. And so this technique, I'm on another machine and I'm able to use the machine freely and change the program that I'm using. For example, here's the browser. I can open up a copy of a Word document.
Adam, can I jump for a second?
Please.
I don't know from anybody else, but I find what I'm seeing almost unreadable. The text is all, it's just very broken up. I don't know if anybody else is experiencing that.
So I'm finding the same way.
Now let me just experiment for a moment. So I'm sharing through this. I'm going to try a couple of things. Let me first of all make this full screen. Is that better?
That's better now.
That's
absolutely
better.
Much better.
So here's the difference. Before, and thanks for bringing that up. So I had this in a different mode. So our admin, which is the remote program I'm using, has several screen modes. It's now in full screen stretch view, which by the way rhymes perfectly with SpongeBob SquarePants. So full screen stretch view. And when you open it on this machine, it's on my host machine where I'm doing Zoom. You're now getting better reception in a sense. Now I'm on the other machine. Can you guys see okay?
Oh, now it's very readable. Thank you, Adam.
Thanks for bringing that up. So this is actually not the document I want to look at. So it's very similar to the discussion, but a little bit. Also, because this system is on a network, I'm able to have full access on my files, which makes it really convenient. So the goal of this meeting is to talk about Office tools, and I sent you out a handout. So this is the tools of the trade handout.
Oh, where's the handout?
So I'm happy to post this in the chat if that'd be helpful. Would anyone like me to do that?
Sure.
Yeah.
Yes.
Aaron Bamage.
I sent it out to BNUG to people who had signed up for the meetup, but I didn't do it at the last minute, so people who signed up later wouldn't have gotten it. So let me get to the chat. I'm going to stop the share for a moment to do the chat.
I saw somebody posted Aaron Bromage.
Yes. So Aaron Bromage is the epidemiologist who wrote an article that was very popular. He wrote it in May. So you should take that into account that it's now dated. But he's a very smart guy who really cares about this, and he wrote a very detailed description of the epidemiology up to that time. So I thought people might find that helpful as I did. I'm also now going to post the BNUG handout. Just get that for you.
Hey, Adam, while you're doing that, as you was talking, there was a thought that got into my mind, and I know it's not for tonight, but just a general topic of concept I'd like to explore.
Yeah.
I mean, obviously, I've been in business an awful long time, which, pretty much makes me the dinosaur of models for computer business. But how we all conduct our business in light of now the current model is that of an MSP, and what that means, and how, to some extent, whether some of us are following that model or not, and if you're not, where does that place us against the way they do business?
Oh, that's very interesting. So the irony here is that we who have fashioned our businesses with this old-fashioned face-to-face
Yes.
quality. I have to tell you, it reminds me a little of what you were saying, no good deed goes unpunished. I wanted to tell you there's a Russian proverb, which is almost the same. In Russia, they say, don't do anything good and no evil will follow. So why not begin our discussion with creating good passwords? These are two lovely models of good password creation. So the first one takes a poem or a song you like and takes the first letter of each word. I was teaching this in a class once, and I smiled smugly, and I said, of course, none of you are going to be able to guess what that is. And a woman in the back row raised her hand, and she said, I love rock and roll. Put another dime in the jukebox, baby. Joan Jett and the Blackhearts. Give me a break. So the second one is the word technique, where you take two words and put a number in between them. They're both very powerful password creation techniques, just to give you a feel for it. You can test the strength of a password by, there are a lot of websites for this. How secure is my password is a nice one. So let's try Joan Jett and the Blackhearts. A long time to break it with brute force. Although you can be very clever and figure out what kind of music I like, I suppose. This method is also really effective.
Four years.
4 years, that actually seems, yeah, so normally you might want to add an extra number, I think, to make it.
Adam, are those time estimates for what we would call a single core? If I had a 12 core, I'd have 1/12 the time?
Yeah, 1/12 of 900 million years.
So
if you add a single digit to this second method, so I recommend 3 digits. If you add a single, it's really astonishing actually. That single digit makes the difference, it appears, between a truly ridiculous amount of time and a less ridiculous, not a ridiculous amount of time. Yeah, so that single digit makes a big difference. So I'd recommend, if you're going to use the second technique, use three digits.
Can you try password 123 but capitalize the P?
This is brute force, remember, not common sense, because that would be in a dictionary. So you're making a really good point here. So this password is a terrible password, but the password security one doesn't really test for that. It's testing for brute force combinations, and it doesn't even know that the word password is a real word. But I believe that the number of permutations of 2 English words is a very large number.
Yeah, Adam, I think the simple way to answer that is how many words are there in the English language and then square it.
So it's 200,000. And then you multiply it by itself to get the number of combinations.
Right, if you don't mind including the word repeated.
Yeah, so 200,000 times 200,000. That's not a very large number of combinations. But when you add the number, it makes it much more difficult to crack, I think. So the point of this is that you want to make a brute force. The thing about brute force is that it doesn't know their English words. A dictionary attack that knew you were using this technique might be actually pretty effective. But remember that for most passwords that we use, The main thing is to make it difficult for people to get in, not impossible. So one statistic that I often use to talk about this is that apparently burglary declined enormously when burglar alarms became popular. Now it's absolutely true. You can defeat a burglar alarm, and probably any kind of password situation, someone might be able to suss it out. But you want to make it if you make it really difficult, people will go somewhere else. So,
Yeah.
so I think as long as you're choosing a path, I think either one of these techniques are effective, and especially if you add some randomness to them. Like for the I Love Rock and Roll, somebody who's really clever and wrote a program that took the first letter of each word of songs, they might be able to actually make some good work there. But again, the only time these kinds of attacks are going to work is with something like a document that's been sent as a PDF and been encrypted, because then you have your way with it for a long period of time. But even then, it would be very difficult.
Now, I have a password question.
Yeah.
And that question is, how many of you, if any of you, are using the passwords that are created by the random password generator, either in KeePass or LastPass or some other program?
I use them all the time.
So you rely on your password being retrieved every time?
Yes. Not for every single one. So I'll tell you the strategy we use. Let me go into KeePass and I'll show you. So here's a sample of KeePass at work. Can everyone see okay?
Yes.
So I describe KeePass as a Rolodex for passwords. It's a very simple, free, open source, very well respected, safe program that takes your passwords and lots of information about the passwords. So I'll point out that in addition to storing your password, you can also go in and add any number of fields. So for example, if it's a credit card, you can put in the expiration date. If it's a bank account, you can put in secret questions. There's a lot of places for that. It also has a history feature where you can retrieve the old password you used last time. It's got many very good features. Its search facility is excellent. So if you have a keyword up here in the title and you put any of the keywords, it'll bring up even any combination that will bring up the passwords that have those keywords. It's really helpful. So when you create a brand new password, say I'm going to a new website. So say that I want to join. Someone give me a good website to join.
Amazon.
Amazon. So I create a new, I don't think I'm logged in, is that anything? I hope not. Yeah, so I'm here and I want to create an Amazon account. So it asks me for a password. So this is a classic example where I do not know my Amazon password. Actually, I happen to, but I shouldn't know my Amazon password. And what I do here is I go here and I write Amazon. Usually it's going to be your email address. KeePass also remembers common usernames. That's something really helpful. And then it makes up a password. Now this can actually cause trouble. They are so fanatical at KeePass that when they give you a 20-character combination, their graph implies that it's really not strong enough.
And could you reveal that password for us?
I will. So KeePass has, among its many wonderful features, this 3-dot method. If I click on it, I get to show the password. So there it is. And I'm going to put it in a Word document so you can see it more clearly. Okay, so here's the password, a beautiful password. Now this password is made by the password generator, which is this fella here. It's automatic. When you create a new entry, it automatically generates it for you. But you can then change it if you decide, or your website has special requirements, like you have to use a special character, you can click here and it will automatically, and it has a preview feature, so you can see what the options are. You can also have really weird options, like every character must appear at most once, or exclude lookalike characters. I like that one.
So, Adam, you're mentioning that you have this ability to generate a 20-character password, for example.
Yeah.
If you don't know your Amazon password, or you're relying on this to check your password, to generate your password, every time you want to go to Amazon, you have to first open up KeePass and look at and cut and paste it?
No. So the way I do it is I make KeePass my index to the internet. So, for example, if I want to go to something fun, not many of these are. There's the BNUG meetup password. So if I go here and I put in the URL down here, which I recommend. The way I go to websites is I right click and I go to here and open the website.
Right, Adam, is a simple scenario the LastPass scenario though? I mean, it's a little simpler to use, right?
Not in my opinion. So let me make.
Because of do you have the extension added into the browser?
Right.
With KeePass?
The way I'm doing it, there's no extension. There's no extension at all. KeePass is entirely independent of the browser. But what I can do now, I don't know whether we're already logged in, so we're going to log out so you get a feel for this. But what normally I do is I go to all my websites through KeePass. KeePass is my way of getting into things. This machine has a kind of a slowness issue with its browser, so just be patient. So here we go. So we're here. It looks like I'm already logged in. I'm going to log out so you get a feel for how this works. So I'm in KeePass. I want to go to BNUG Meetup and make a change to our announcement. I do my open. That brings me here. Then I go to login. And actually, usually I put for the URL, I put this one here, so that when you do the URL command, instead I put this login one here. You see? And now when I do the URL, it'll automatically bring me to that login page. So now here I am at the login page. And notice it's blinking at email address. Now, the email address goes here, and I think the password's going to end up here. So it goes like this. You start with it blinking the email address, and then you do auto type. It enters the username, it enters the password, and it logs you in. And you're in.
So now this doesn't look like it's a password manager for dummies. Rather than LastPass seems to be more of a novice type program.
Yes, but it has a major disadvantage. I'm just going to say that if that's suits you. It depends when you talk about being dumb. So I think this is actually, you're really introducing one of my main themes when talking about Office tools, so I really appreciate you doing that. The theme is that easiness is often not a very good criterion for running a business. So I'm going to just people can absolutely disagree with me, but I'm going to make this case. It's been a really key part of my work as a computer person and as a person involved in business. I often will choose tools that are not particularly easy, but are strong and reliable and genuinely helpful. I find, for example, LastPass is a very good example of comparison with KeePass and will give you a feel for how I make this decision. So here's LastPass. I want to point out that LastPass is owned by LogMeIn, the same company that doubled its prices this year and lost me as a customer.
And LogMeIn isn't owned by LogMeIn anymore.
Huh, who owns it now?
They were bought by some kind of a financial conglomerate that I don't know the name of.
Yeah, that we're probably fattening up the cow, trying to fatten up the cow with my fees. But anyway, I am very influenced by that kind of thing.
Did you say KeePass was owned by LogMeIn?
Oh gosh, no. LastPass is owned by LogMeIn.
Oh, sorry.
No problem.
KeyPass is not owned by anybody.
KeyPass is open source. Here's LastPass. LastPass is now owned by LogMeIn, which is owned by somebody. Notice that LogMeIn has a little ad at the top of KeyPass. So what LastPass does, and it has a number of good competitors, Dashlane, SplashID, these are respectable online services that have reasonable security, and they are very convenient. They use an extension in your browser so that when you go to the website, you simply click on it, it gets you in, and you don't have to worry so much about your passwords. My big issue about this, I'm sorry, who was asking the original question about LastPass?
That was me, Drew.
Thank you, Drew. So the issue for me is that I've been in customer situations where the customers are using these programs, and anyone who got to their computer could get to all of their stuff, period.
Now, suppose you have an entire family full of iPhone users. Would you recommend KeyPass for those people?
I'll give you some options anyway. You could use LastPass, but here's some options. One of them is to say, it depends what people are using the passwords for. If, in general, people really need to get into all these websites through their phone, then you're kind of stuck and you need something that will let you do that. There is a technique for using KeyPass on phones and for using them on networks, which we've certainly done the thing on networks and it works beautifully. So what I'm going to do is just make the case that in a family, these web-based systems have a lot to. I get it. It makes a lot of sense. You've got this situation where a whole bunch of people sharing the same password, maybe a couple, maybe a father and a son. There are lots of ways to do that. But LastPass does not strike me as something where I would want to put access to serious banking information or serious information where I was protecting customer privacy, because the possibilities of people leaving a phone around with LastPass on it, or a computer open with LastPass on it, or a malware that takes advantage of the fact that these websites aren't locked. They're open to anyone who has access to the computer. All of this makes me nervous, but it gets worse for me. When you use LastPass and you don't take special measures, your passwords are at the mercy of this company. We had a customer that lost the LastPass, their master password, and tried to go through their password recovery program. And when it failed, the last step of the password recovery program was, we're really sorry, you've lost your password, you'll have to recreate your password list. I'm serious. That's part of the LastPass program, at least it was when this happened a couple years ago. These are not responsible companies who are working for you in some cases. They are companies that are making as much money as they possibly can. They're providing these free services as loss leaders. They're not concerned about their 100 million customers in the way that someone who is husbanding your passwords ought to be. So for me, that's another reason why these companies make me really nervous.
Adam?
Yeah.
I just want to put in a word for SplashID.
Yeah.
I've been using it for many years, but not in the regular mode that you're led to when you install it, which is to store your passwords online. I also cringe at storing things in the cloud, especially things as valuable as passwords. SplashID has the ability, and I can't think of the exact term, to say, don't store my passwords online, store them in a database on my hard drive, which of course is encrypted with the master password. And to answer the iPhone or smartphone question, there's a companion app that you put on your smartphone, and you have to navigate the options carefully, but you can then synchronize not over the internet, but only over your local network. So, because one of the issues with, oh, I'm out and about and I wanted to get my password, so the only option is over the internet. Well, if before you leave your house, you make sure your phone has synchronized over the local network with your computer's database of passwords, then you have all your passwords before you leave the house encrypted into your phone.
Right.
So I like that combination of local network only encrypted in each device and only synchronized when you're at home. I mean, how often do you really need to synchronize when you're on the road?
That sounds like
Now,
a good
here's
issue.
the problem. Here's the problem that I've run into with my own family is everybody has an iPhone, an iPad, and a Windows laptop.
Yep.
And I find I have an Android phone and I store my password database for KeePass on the Google Drive and I synchronize it that way. There's an application called KeePass Droid, which allows you to access a remote file stored on a sharing cloud service like Google. I have found it nearly impossible to teach my family how to use KeePass at all. I find it difficult enough to convince them to properly use LastPass.
Yes. So
And when I visit a customer site and I often go to a customer site and I reboot their computer and it asks for a password and then they have to start pulling out a notebook and a bunch of papers, try and figure out where they wrote the password down the last time. And I feel nervous about teaching those people how to use KeePass and have it synchronized between their phone, their tablet, and their computer.
So I'm not sure. I don't know your family, Drew, but I work with customers with KeePass, and of varying different skill levels. And for customers who get it, who get the importance of it, they're willing to learn, and the steps are really doable. Like this is a program that a person who's able to bake a cake can handle their passwords well. The thing that I like about KeePass as a office tool, and this again will give you a feel for the way I think about office tools, is that all of its procedures are very clear. They're very, there's nothing hidden behind something. LastPass and these other programs have all kinds of layers. I have no idea what they are or what's going on. This is really just a Rolodex. There's nothing more or less than that. And it has a couple of cute features like that auto type thing. But really, in teaching it to people, by saying, look, this is a piece of paper with passwords in it. And here's how if you right click on it, you copy the password, you paste it in. And if you want to go to the website, you click on the URL. Anyone who's willing to put in some effort will learn this. Now, if the core issue is that people are not willing to put in the effort, or not able to put in the effort, that is a really different pedagogical problem, in my opinion. I think that it's a larger social problem, that there a lot of effort has gone into making people's lives easier by coming up with these labor-saving devices like LastPass. And yes, LastPass is easier in some sense to use, but it introduces a whole bunch of complexity of people not really understanding what it is. The beauty of a tool like this is that even though it's more work, you really understand it. Like once someone's learned KeePass, there's no mystery about it. There's no saying, oh, I don't really understand what's going on here. I've never heard anyone say that about KeePass because it's not possible. It's just a Rolodex. So if you were able to start with one, I mean, I'm a big believer in evangelists in families and organizations. If you start with one person and show them how beautiful this is, I want to say a few more words about this program and why I like it so much. One of the things I love about it is that when you save it, the program becomes a sealed container. This is the one we've just been working with. I like to think of it as when you open it, you're adding water. This is a dehydrated database. And it's a file. And this, again, is such a contrast to these online programs where they're keeping stuff in databases, who knows where they are or what they're doing with them, who knows what would happen if they got corrupted, like nobody really knows. But in this case, oh, go ahead, Drew.
How do you teach these people how to keep their database in sync with their other devices?
So the way we do it in our office, we're networked. So this file is on our network drive, and anyone who uses it is pointing to it. So there's no intellectual activity involved. You just open up the database, and it opens up this network. KeePass is networked out of the box. So as long as you have the database pointing to the right KDBX file, multiple people on a network can use it. So if you have a shared drive on your network, everyone can use the same KeePass database or multiple ones. And they get to it by going here, file open, and then going to the directory where it is and open it, and multiple people can open the same one.
Right, that works in a business model, and I agree with you that it works in that scenario.
You guys
My concern is an individual that has, and it could be anybody that has both a phone and a computer.
Let's get to that for a moment, Drew. So in your network, do you guys have one space that's shared?
I don't work in a company that has a shared server.
No, I was thinking of your family.
Oh, my family? No.
So could you create one? Could you create a little shared space that everyone had access to?
I would rather not try and tie my family into that.
Well, let's think about it for a moment, just to try to answer your question. The way I dealt with this with an insurance company that used to be in an office and with COVID kind of exploded into these different locations is we took Dropbox and we plopped this in Dropbox and had everyone point to it, and it works perfectly. They're all having the same database, they share it. When one adds to it, the other one gets it.
You had to make sure you installed the Dropbox software on everyone's computer.
Everyone has to use Dropbox, and Dropbox then creates a mock directory which acts like a regular folder. And so, Drew, if it were your family, they would all have Dropbox, and you would link KeePass to the file in Dropbox, and they would all have the same database. It's beautifully safe because someone who breaks into Dropbox would just get this file, which is useless to someone without the password. But it's fully synchronized by Dropbox, so if you make changes to it, the other person will have the changes. And it will work on a phone because the phone is able to access the Dropbox folder. And the benefit is that then everything's kept in this file. And I just want to talk about this file for a moment, because for me, it's just such a lovely, lovely thing. So the lovely thing here is that this file is now the repository of all your important stuff. And for those of you who heard me talk about our Drop Dead Safely program, one of the things our company does is help people plan for that unfortunate moment when you die or you get sick and someone needs to help you. So when that moment happens, someone needs to be able to get into your online life. This is a beautiful way of sharing that. You simply send this file by email. It's completely safe. You send this file to the important people in your life, and you teach them to use KeePass, and then you have a way of sending all your important confidential information, or as much as you wish to share, easily through email. I don't know of any other really great way of doing this. Like, you could give people access to your LastPass account. That's certainly a legitimate way of doing it, and I'm not against it. But this way seems so much cleaner and safer. And so if you did this with your family and people got the hang of it, it would not only have a short-term benefit, it would have a long-term benefit. People would then get in the habit of saying, the important stuff goes in this database. We're willing to work to learn how to use this database, but once we learn it, we own that knowledge. We own this program. This program is not going to get updated in any appreciable way. It's not going to get discontinued. It's not going to get bought out by a large conglomerate. This program is permanently available in its present form. And I just think there's a lot to be said for that, for such an important function in a family or a company.
I think that from what I've learned from you is that this is a great tool for the trade. And I understand the level of security, and I truly understand how to synchronize. I don't synchronize using that program that you had made reference to. I use Gmail, for synchronizing between devices,
Okay.
and I don't have any Apple products personally. And so I know how to use the KeyPass Droid for my Android phone. When I go to a novice's home and I see them rummaging through scraps of paper,
Yes.
it's if they store their KeyPass database on their computer and it's synchronizing to anybody's database, and they fail to be able to log into their computer, they need a secondary way of getting to that database file. And that typically is going to be either on their iPhone or their iPad. And
I'm sorry, go ahead.
And what I don't understand is how easy it is to teach people how to use KeyPass on multiple devices, such as an iPad, an iPhone, and a Windows computer all at the same time.
Well, if I understand, I have a coworker who used it on his iPhone. I'm not sure whether he had iPhone or Android, but KeyPass is a very popular program. It's available, I think, for almost anything. So you basically just install the program, and then you need to point to the shared space. Either Dropbox or Google Drive would probably work. I haven't used it, but I'm
Or
assuming.
iCloud. iCloud works on all Apple devices.
So iCloud. And then once you point it there, the rest is up to KeyPass, which does the synchronization very, very elegantly.
Okay, so I would recommend for those people to use iCloud rather than teaching them how to use a third-party sharing system.
That's fine. So they can use iCloud and put the KeyPass database in iCloud. That'd be fine. Again, the beauty of this that I like about it is that if they learn the program and their relatives learn the program, and everyone, as we say, standardizes on this program, the program acts as a communications tool. So that, again, is a really important theme that I want to emphasize.
Does anybody support websites? Because I want to put a plug in. If you are supporting websites, I'm going to ask Adam to add it to his list, but you should have your websites point to Cloudflare. Cloudflare is basically a front-end proxy that's free and maintained across the world, and they get all the alerts of the hackers trying to break into websites first, and then they block that for everybody. So it's kind of a crowdsourcing for hacking prevention. They've got millions of customers. I use the free version. So if anybody's doing any kind of website support, you have to put your sites behind Cloudflare. But I don't know if you guys are doing that at all. Or if you have your own website, put your website behind Cloudflare. And it's not that hard to just set up. So if you're using like GoDaddy's DNS server, you just use Cloudflare, and then they'll still kind of just point anybody in the world who tries to hit your website. It'll protect your website beautifully. So Adam, you're back, I see. So if you want to talk about this more some other time, for website protection, Cloudflare.
So why don't I do the AlphaSmart part and then see if I can weave in the PDFill and VPNs. About the VPNs, let me just say a couple of quick words. We used Hamachi for one of our customers. It's owned by LogMeIn, which is owned by a large financial conglomerate. It's decent, but we found that it failed frequently. We found that for no good reason it would stop working. So our admin, it turns out, this company that we really like, the remote control software, they make a VPN product that's free. And so what I did was I left Hamachi alone. I added RAdmin. And now this company, I haven't heard a peep from them. No failures at all. So I think RAdmin may work better, but it's working in tandem with Hamachi. If one goes down, the other one's there. So that's the main thing I had to say about VPNs. And for people who aren't familiar with it, this allows you to share drives between machines, which especially during COVID is extraordinarily useful. It basically means you can have all your network resources available to all the machines, regardless of where the computer is. Which
Is it better than Windows VPN?
I've never used the Windows one. I've always found I always found Windows remote stuff to be scary because it involves ports and all this other weird stuff that I don't really understand. But if someone else wants to sometime talk about the Windows version, I'd be really eager to hear about it.
On the VPN, do you get some sort of address, static IP address, or do you need
Yes. So you set up the VPN and then you get an IP address and then you're able to access the rest of the network that way.
Adam, from what I can see, the RAdmin VPN is a Windows piece of software, so there's no Macintosh option?
Not that I know of. I think that's true about Hamachi as well.
No, I use Hamachi on both Mac and PC.
Oh, I didn't know that. That's good to know. And have you had a good experience with Hamachi?
It's okay. It's slow. I mean, I wouldn't transfer a gigabyte file over it.
Yeah.
But I've.
You haven't had reliability problems?
Not that weren't the underlying connection, at the clients.
Okay.
I'll be going into detail on this in September.
Excellent.
And including VPNs that run across every platform, regardless of whether it's Windows, Macintosh, Linux, Android. I'm going to focus on VPNs that are not Windows only VPNs.
Great. This will be really helpful. Can people see me in front of my camera?
Yes.
So
Yes.
This is an AlphaSmart. I'm going to show you a better picture of it on the screen, but I just want to show you the actual one I'm using. So this, I'll show you the ad for it because I think it shows a better picture. You can get these on eBay. In fact, it's the only way to get them. They're no longer manufactured. So these are pictures of the AlphaSmart. The Neo 2 is the one that I use. This price is a little high. Usually they average about 30. And as you can see, does everyone see the keyboard?
Yep.
Teeny weeny
So-
weeny.
Yeah.
It's a full length, full size keyboard. And it's got this little screen at the top where you do your writing. The full size keyboard is one of its many wonderful features. What I use this for is everything. Virtually all the writing I do, with the exception of some email, I do on my AlphaSmart. All my customer notes, all my bank records, all my task lists, they're all done on this device. Why on earth would I do this? It turns out that it has many advantages. There's some costs involved, but there are many advantages. I first saw this device because one of my good friends was in an accident and she was recovering and going to graduate school and she couldn't write. She had nerve and other problems that prevented her from writing. And so Mass Rehab, which is actually a remarkably wonderful department, issued an AlphaSmart to her. And when I saw it, my eyes lit up because I realized it solved this main problem that I had, which is that I'm a guy who's always going around to different places and I have 5 minutes here and 2 minutes here to do my writing. This tool is wonderful for that. You push a button and it's instant on. You type, you turn it off. You push a button again and do some more typing. So for that 5 minutes you have in the subway, you can get some writing done, or the 5 minutes while you're waiting for a computer to reboot. It has 8 files. You'll see at the top of this picture, you see these buttons at the top? Can people see my cursor?
I see a device that's about 2 square inches.
Have a device, but no, I don't see your cursor.
Yeah, I don't think my cursor's showing, but can you see the buttons above the number keys?
Yes.
Yeah, that says up through file 8.
Yeah, exactly. So there are 8 files in an AlphaSmart. Each one holds about 15 pages. So I use the files for different reasons. So file 1 is my task list. File 2 is my administrative stuff. Files 3, 4, and 6 are for customer notes. Files 7 and 8 are personal. And file 5 is my buffer file, which I'll explain. So I carry this around, and I do all my writing in it. And among its many benefits, it's instant on, I can write. It does not go on the internet. It does not get viruses. It doesn't let you do email. The only thing you're allowed to do with it is write. That alone I really like, because it means when I'm with my AlphaSmart, I'm really working.
And is that a USB cable for copying to or from a computer?
Exactly, and I'm going to demonstrate that right now. So when you have an AlphaSmart, you do whatever writing you do, and then you grab your USB cable. And I feel like one of those stewardesses with the mask. Okay. So you take your USB cable, attach it to your machine. I'm attaching it to the very machine we're looking at. And I'm going to plug this right in here. It's a per standard USB printer cable. Now, when I do this, the computer now thinks that this AlphaSmart is a keyboard. This is really kind of weird. So let me go out to the desktop here.
Oh, you mean as opposed to thinking it's a flash drive?
That's right. It thinks it's a keyboard. Let me show you.
Oh, I think I get it.
Okay, so I open up Word. And now I go to the file 1. Okay, now we hit the send button on the AlphaSmart. There we go. Now if I want what's in file 2, by the way, I just hit enter a couple times on the AlphaSmart. That's how I'm getting down there.
Adam, did you type F1 before you hit send?
No, I did Command F2, Command F1, Command file 1.
No, but I'm saying in the Word window on your computer, it started with F1.
That's the way I keep track of my files. I put those in the Alpha.
Oh, that's
File
in
1.
the actual file. Got it.
Yeah, it's actually in the file. I use it because it's a unique, you'll almost never find it except in like Microsoft product codes.
Oh, no, I get it. You've labeled each file. Got it.
Yeah. So I made a mistake here, and it's going crazy because there we go. Anyway, this is file 2. But I made a mistake. I hit the button before I was in Word, so that's okay. I'm just going to delete it. And now I'm going to hit send again. This is really fun when it's several pages. You get to watch all your writing get retyped.
Does it go the other way too? Does it have a receive button?
Well, not on the AlphaSmart, but it turns out that there's some software you can get. There's a whole industry about AlphaSmarts. So here's how it works. You can download this free program called the Neo Manager. That's this guy here. It's actually designed to plug into a hub that lets you retrieve from multiple AlphaSmarts because that's how teachers use it.
Jeez.
But in this case, it's just going to pick up my AlphaSmart because there's only one attached. But then it shows you what's in each file. It shows you the beginning of each file. And then when you click here and you say Save Files, it lets you put the files in a folder where you want it. So let's...
Oh, so this is even more efficient than the Word.
It's much more efficient than clicking Send into Word, yes. And now I'm going to click Save. So now, if we go into the BNUG folder, it makes a folder called Neo USB. And there are my files that I just retrieved. So if I go into, say, file 8, which should have like my personal banking is what I usually use that for. Oh, I'm sorry. This computer has both word processors on it, Word, and it's defaulting to LibreOffice. It's fine. Here's file 8. So this is my checkbook. So with this program, you're able to, on a daily basis, back up your alpha. And I actually create a batch file. This is my chance to prove to that student that batch files are still in use. So if you create a batch file called Add 'em Up, now I have a little batch file. So what the batch file is going to do is it's going to make sure we're in the right place. So we'll say r:/BNUG/neo. And then what we're going to do is we're going to copy everything into all the text.
Adam, I think you want to start with copy and put the path before the first argument.
Well, actually, yeah, that will work. And the only thing that will work. Thank you.
Oh, no problem.
Like so.
And you need
Hold on
at
just a
least the space before the first asterisk. Yeah, there you go.
copy everything. But I actually, what I really wanted to do, I wasn't doing this very well. Let me try this again. I just want to make sure we're in the right place before we do this. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to put this above here.
Yeah, but that's cleaner.
Okay, so we go to the R drive, change to this directory, and then do all our stuff. Okay, let's try it. Oops. See how it's copying all the files?
Well, this is just appending them all into one file.
Correct. That's my goal. So now I get a wonderful file that has all my stuff.
Oh, okay.
All concatenated together. So file 1, file 2, file 3, file 4, file 5. They're all in the same document.
Yep.
And that's actually how I do business. I put all of these in the same document. Sometime when we have more time, I can show you how I merge them all together. But the gist of it is that all my writing is concatenated together, is squeezed together so that I can go into a file and has all the writing I did in the last 2 years. And this is extraordinarily useful because I can write in my alpha, in file 1 in my list, I could say, and right, Drew knows a lot about VPNs. And this is now part of my permanent memory. So if I think to myself, I knew I was talking to somebody about VPNs, and I look up VPNs, in about a moment, I'll find this line. This is just a really simple, straightforward, powerful tool for memory, but also a really good way of being able to take notes constantly and cleanly. I do all my customer notes with this, and I just want to make a case for it. Instead of opening a computer and going to a file, everything gets put in here, and it greatly, I think, reduces the friction of my day. As I'm working with a customer, I just turn this on, go to the customer file, and enter this. Go to the place where this person is, which I can talk about, and put their information in. And then I'm not worrying at that moment about where does this fit into the customer file? What are the details? I'm focusing on talking with the customer and helping them. And then on the back end, I put a lot of work into taking these raw notes and putting them into invoices and getting them to the right place and doing task lists and so forth. And this gets back to this question that I think, Drew, you were touching on about KeePass. KeePass is more work than LastPass. But the benefit of the work is very large. And even though my system of doing this is labor intensive, I find that the net result is really positive, which is that I have very good notes from my work. When customers call me, I don't spend any time fussing about getting to where I need to be. When I'm on the road, I'm able to get work done in very small quarters and cramped quarters. And the cost of this device as long as it's well backed up, and also the reliability of it, which is excellent. I think I've had 2 incidents in my whole life with AlphaSmarts where I've lost something. I really have enjoyed it a lot, and I hope other people will. And if you have questions about it, I'd be really happy to.
I have some questions.
Yeah.
Number 1, how much space does it have on it? How much can it hold?
15 pages per file and 8 files.
And that's 2,000 characters a page?
Something like that, yeah.
Is it something that needs a battery to retain the data?
There are 2 batteries in an 2 battery sets in an AlphaSmart. There are 3 pen-like batteries that generally last an entire year. A little bit less I find with rechargeables, but 3 regular pen-like batteries last an entire year without replacing or recharging.
And if the batteries give out, do you lose your data?
There's a CR 2020, I think 2032. It's the standard one we use for CMOS batteries. That's inside the AlphaSmart that keeps things going until you replace the batteries.
So the memory is stored in a must be powered on storage.
The battery keeps the memory alive. There's no other kinds of memory involved, but it's designed. The energy is designed very cleverly so that, as I say, the battery lasts an entire year without any battery issues at all. It's another real benefit of this machine.
So Adam, how would you push from the computer content into the AlphaSmart?
I think, I haven't done it with this particular program, but I have another program that definitely does that. Let me see if this one does. There's a send list. I'm pretty sure this lets you do it. We can try it. So I don't know what I haven't used this feature. I don't know what a send list is. It probably doesn't work when something's not attached, but let's see. Get or print AlphaSmart files, AlphaSmart or file to send. So only checked files will be sent to the device. So I'm not sure where we get this file. Let's see. Enter linked files. So create my own. Oh, they have like these sample ones, but I can create my own file, a linked file. So I guess you can create your own linked file.
Well, I don't need for you to put your data at risk or anything, but it sounds like you have had no need to push in.
I rarely do, but the only occasion when I've had to push in, and this looks like it will work, and this is a sample alpha. If we have time, we could try it. We're kind of running low. But I think this will work. I think what you do is you open up a file, a text file, and you just dump it in. I've used this when the 1 or 2 times the AlphaSmart has had problems, and I've had to then get a new AlphaSmart and restore my backup to the new AlphaSmart.
Okay, so twice in your lifetime, right?
Very rare.
Okay.
I mean, AlphaSmarts do fail. Like a keyboard sometimes will go out, but you can actually buy the keyboard. They're really durable devices. Apparently, the salesman throws them down the stairs as part of the sales pitch when they were selling them. And one time I was outside a concert. My daughter was singing. I was outside a concert, and this woman comes by, and I was sitting there writing on an AlphaSmart. And she said, "I know what that is. That's an AlphaSmart. I used to be an AlphaSmart salesman. And I was the only one who could break it when I threw it down the stairs." So let me just spend the last few minutes saying a word about PD-Fill, because that was one of the other questions people had. And I just want to say how enthusiastic I am about this program. So you get this program from this really goofy company, PD-Fill. They're goofy. Their colors are goofy. It's goofy. But when you go to download and you go to basic version and you download this from CNET, it downloads this little program, and then you install it. And when you install it, there's a free PD editor. But what you want is this thing. It's called the PD Fill Tools. Here they are. So for people who are PDF fans, these tools also have some lovely features, like a merger to merge PDF files, a splitter. Like if you have a PDF file and someone faxed it to you or something, and then you want to cut off the first page, it will let you do that. But this is the one I want to show you, encrypt. So suppose I send, Suki's getting tired of this, but suppose I send Suki a letter. Okay, I want to send her a letter. And here's my objective. I want to make sure that nobody knows that I'm asking Suki to lend me money. So that's my first objective. I want to secret. This is a secret. This is just between me and Suki. And then the second thing is, I want to make sure that when Suki gets it, she knows that I'm not a scammer, that it's really me that's sending it. We can accomplish that goal, both goals at the same time. So here's the letter, the original letter, opened up in Acrobat, okay? Now, I go into the PDF tools, I encrypt by clicking here, picking the letter, and then changing it to high encryption and picking the password. So I think in our KeyPass, we have this password. Let me see if I can find it. Here's KeyPass. I created one for this. We'll create one now. So we'll say tree star 231 star chicken. Okay? Now I put the password here. I encrypt as, and one nice thing is you can click here, and then you can just put something in front. That's what I usually do. I'll say locked for BNUG test. Now, what it's doing now is it's encrypting it, and to show off, it's showing off that it's encrypted by opening it in Acrobat and forcing you to use the password, which is still in the buffer. So it's going to let me open it. Excellent. Now, here's what I do. I send this encrypted file to Suki by email, by completely unprotected email. So here's the file.
Yeah, I call this locking your stuff in a safe and then FedExing the safe.
I like that. So we're FedExing the safe to Suki. Now, here's the beauty of it. During the trip, while the safe is being driven through the streets by FedEx, this is impregnable. You know, assuming, you know, someone's doesn't have a supercomputer and isn't doing something really clever, there's no way anyone can read this email. And it is HIPAA compliant, 201 CMR 17 compliant, and compliant in every other way. You've certainly met any reasonable legal responsibility by doing this. Now, here's what I really love about this. Suki receives this file, and I call her on the phone. Hello, Suki, are you there? Suki, are you there? I think I saw her here before. Suki, are you with us? Did we lose her? Okay.
I'm here.
So Suki, the password is tree, what did I say? Tree star chicken?
I don't know, but I can't see the screen that you're speaking of.
Okay, that's another issue, but I'm going to tell you the password. So the password is tree 231, tree star 231 star chicken.
Okay.
So if I email this to Suki, when she gets it, she's going to get a PDF. She's going to open the PDF like this. She's going to open it in Acrobat. Where's the BNUG one? Here it is. She's going to open it in Acrobat, which everyone in the world has. Now here's the beautiful moment.
You mean Acrobat Reader?
Correct, which everyone has. Just the reader. Everyone has it. She tries to open it. And I've called her on the phone and given her the password. What does Suki know when she enters this password and it opens up the document?
Well, that it was from you.
That's the critical thing. Not only does she know, do we all have this nice, Suki and I have this nice confidence that nobody's reading this email that I'm sending her, this PDF. I know that even if someone's listening to my email, which has been happening, if someone's spoofing my email by a third party or somehow got into my email account by hammering on my POP address and figuring out the password, I know, and Suki knows, that she's the only one who can read this file because she's the only one who has the password. But she also knows, absolutely, that I sent it because it is impossible for anyone to create a PDF file that has this password in it. This is really powerful. It means that the recipient knows for sure that this document was actually sent by me, in addition to knowing that it was sent securely without somebody messing with it or changing it or doing anything else. This is really wonderful. And notice that it requires no expense at all. There's no software, there's no third party, there's no portals, there's none of that stuff. It's just using one simple piece of software and taking advantage of an infrastructure that's been around since 1993, the PDF infrastructure, which is everywhere. It's completely pervasive. You don't have to worry about the software the other person has because we know they have the reader.
Can I ask a few questions, Adam?
Please.
I wasn't aware of PDFill, and obviously, I guess my first question is, as a piece of free software, your confidence level in it. In my case, I mean, when Adobe went from purchase product to subscription, companies gave up on, they didn't want to subscribe, and I mean, I'm sure you see that. So we did a stint with PDF Complete, and they disappeared, and now Nitro Pro has sort of taken their place. But these are all paid products, very nice products, but paid products.
Yeah.
So if it's just the case of wanting encryption and maybe one or two other features, this PDFill program, you get a high level of confidence in it as a free product.
That's a really good question. So there are a whole bunch of this, like mushrooms of fungus growing all over PDF products. I actually don't use this product I use QPDF for PDF editing, which we could talk about some other time. It's a very interesting subject. But as far as confidence goes, my understanding is that PDFill is using the encryption that's built into Adobe. So in fact, it has to be, because otherwise the reader wouldn't accept the password. So I'm confident that PDFill somehow is using the Adobe encryption system. And I do trust the Adobe encryption system because it's Adobe's.
They use the Adobe API.
They must be
the Acrobat. Yeah, they use the off-the-shelf, free API to write this whole tool. Because if you have the Adobe Acrobat Professional, these are the same features. So now they've rewritten them and made it free, which is pretty awesome.
But they have to use Adobe tools because otherwise.
Yes. They use the API to build this.
So Adobe made a deal when they in 1993 they decided to do what IBM did with the PC. IBM opened its architecture. It was brilliant.
Right.
PDF took over the world.
Right. I've written a couple of PDF things that generates PDFs and
so the PDF,
using the API.
The API, and the API is generally available, right? You do have to pay for it.
Oh no, it's free.
Yeah. So they're using that. So we trust that, Jeff. And so basically we're using this as a quiet, inexpensive way of using the Adobe product, the Adobe, but just this one aspect of it. And
this is great.
Yeah, but I just want to emphasize the social change that this can create. What this allows you to do is send a message to somebody and be guaranteed that it's secure and guaranteed that you are verified as the sender. People spend millions and millions of dollars on portals to achieve this effect, and it's completely unnecessary, and this is better.
Adam, you could take your Alpha Smart document.
Yeah.
load it into Word, convert it to PDF, encrypt it. So there's your end-to-end application from Alpha Smart through this tool.
Yeah, he wouldn't even need Word. He just needs Notepad.
Yeah, right.
Exactly. You can do anything you want. But I think the thing that I want to emphasize is that this approach addresses the core problem with email and the core problem with a lot of fraud, which is that the email system has no way of identifying the sender, and there's no way of guaranteeing that what you're sending an email won't be intruded on. This completely solves both of those problems at the same time for nothing, without involving a third party. So this, I think, is a really wonderful, involving a third party in any way in which they could consciously interfere. All these portals, all these companies that do escrow, all these companies that do all this stuff, they all involve trusting that company not to have renegade employees or not to have crazy backup systems or whatever. This doesn't require any of that. It simply depends on well-respected encryption and this very simple intellectual idea, which is you can't open something from someone when you have a shared password unless it's from that person.
One slight, Adam.
I'm sorry, go ahead.
I was just going to say, one thing I do just a tad different along the same vein is email the password protected PDF and then message them, do a text message with the password to the individual.
Yeah, instead of calling them on the phone.
Instead of calling them. So with the dual stream of, the dual data stream, again, to me, that's a good enough way of separating it to.
I think text messaging, my understanding is it's pretty secure. I don't really know enough about it.
It's certainly pretty secure, but the separation of texting and email is, to me, enough to guarantee that, only that person's going to get both of them.
Yeah, I do the same thing with the, audio voicemail.
Yes, yeah. So I think audio voicemail, and again, I'm always with keeping an eye to the legal issue. So voicemail is protected by law, by federal law. In the United States, if you tap someone's phone, you go to jail for 20 years. It's not a minor offense. But if you tap someone's email, you get rich. It's a really very different kind of situation. Messaging, I'm not sure where messaging fits in. I know faxing is protected. I'm not clear whether messaging is protected, legally speaking. I don't know the answer to that question.
Adam, I just wanted to comment to the group. Ever since Adam introduced me to this program, I've been using it a little slightly differently than Adam. The most frequent features I use here are the merge part. I often have multiple things I want to send to a client. So first, I print to PDF using, in my case, Qt PDF, which is a very simple, free PDF printer driver. If you can print, you can make a PDF. That also used to be a thing from Adobe. So when I have multiple things to send to a client, some might be landscape, some might be portrait. Oh, Adam, could you leave that screen open?
Oh, I will.
I have a system for naming files. So I might have, if Smith is the client, I might have, 3 different files I want to send to Smith. So I'll name them Smith 1 or A, and then, what the file contains, the first file, Smith 2 or B, the second file, Smith 3 or C, the third file. And these are purely internal names that Smith will never see. Then I click the merge button, the tool number 1 there. And I just drag and drop those 3 files into the merge window. Could you click merge for me?
Yeah.
And the beautiful thing about my little naming system is when you drop the files in here, you'll notice on the right, the 4th button is the word sort. For some reason, drag and drop they don't always land in alphabetical order. But because I name them in an order, in an order like that, one click on sort and poof, now they're in the order in which I intend them to present to the client. And then and the last thing on merge is save. And then I name the file the client will see, Smith files for today. And then if I'm emailing that file, I then use that encryption function to turn that Smith, here are the files for today, into an encrypted Smith, here are the files from today. And then I email that. Although a chunk of the time, ironically, I'm uploading the unencrypted merged file into a secure portal for the client.
Oh, that's fine.
But I want to comment though that on the Mac, almost every function here is actually built into the Mac operating system. If you just hit print, in the print preview function built into the Mac, Mac absorbed PDF many years ago intrinsically in the operating system. So if you just hit print somewhere in the print dialog, it's in different places for different programs. You can just emit a PDF instead of emitting a piece of paper. And in there as well is encrypt this with the following password.
And what kind of encryption? Is it PDF encryption?
Yes. So also, you can separate or merge PDFs in a trivial way with the Mac interface. The preview program, which is the nominal print preview, is like a mild PDF editor. You don't edit the words on the PDF, but you can move pages around. You can delete pages. You can merge two files by dragging them at the page level. The one thing that PDF Fill does so far that I've noticed that is I have not figured out how to do on the Mac is to remove the encryption. That's the decrypt option number 3 there. That's an amazing option that I cannot figure out how to do on the Mac for free. But I use this or the Mac equivalent almost every day.
Yes, thank you very much, Martin.
You said this is free?
Yes, it is. So when you download it, just when you install it, they'll ask you, do you want to install the editor and other stuff? Just say no, just focus on the free PDF tools.
Yeah, the one cost is whenever you, Adam, if you could just go back one more time. When you actually close the program, either hitting exit or the X, if you could just close the program, there's
sometimes a website opens up.
Yeah, there's a mild exhortation to send the money here. So you will land in your web browser. I think you just had it.
It's not doing it for some reason on this machine. But
well, your Firefox lit up there. I thought it did.
Oh, well, I have ad block. I wonder if it's blocking it.
Oh, well, I do too. But anyway, so I my Firefox comes forward with a little, the request for money. So if you can put up, so I just leave this open until I have to reboot my machine to minimize the ads that I see. But that's the only price, is that they ask you for a donation.
Yeah, but they're a commercial outfit. They sell a PDF editor, which I've used. I actually prefer the QPDF one, which some other time I'd love to share with people because it's made my PDF life so much easier. Dealing with government forms and stuff, it's just really made things much easier. So we're well over, but I will say Martin's talking about dealing with PDFs. He'll be back next month to say in a lot more detail how he helps people with bookkeeping and where these PDFs place a role. I'm really looking forward to that talk. And encourage people to please come and visit our board meeting on the 21st. Get involved in BNUG, volunteer. There's lots to do. There's outreach to do. There's lots of other stuff to do. I hope that people also do outreach to just reach out for new members. I'm particularly interested in attracting people, the younger generation to our group. So I encourage people to look for opportunities to reach out and tell people about us. And I hope people have a really wonderful week, a wonderful month.
Can I throw in before we end the meeting?
Yes.
I recently, I have let's just say hypothetically, a doctor's office, and they have a portal, and they require somebody such as myself to upload a form or fill out a form prior to an office visit. And what they do is they email me 2 separate emails. Nothing is encrypted. They put the web address and the user ID in one email, and they use a password in the second email. And this is a doctor's office doing this. And I don't know if if that qualifies to be HIPAA compliant or not.
I do. It is not. They're in violation of HIPAA on its face.
Drew, I have a suggestion. I have the same experience with a couple of accounting firms. And I've tried to explain to them that, in clear text, somebody else might pretend to be me and upload a virus into your server. But here's how I protect myself anyway. Once I have the web address, the username, and the password, I then sign in and then I change my password.
Yes.
Now, hopefully it doesn't email me the new password.
Yeah, but I think you told about a company that did.
Now,
It's a kooky world.
Now, what
Hey,
they
Martin?
do here is they give me a password that is based on my name and my birth date. And
Wonderful. So a double HIPAA violation. They're
and
emailing
then
your birthday.
they, after what they do is they limit the time value of the password to 60 days, which is, I think, a very long time.
That's, yeah. Just theoretically speaking about this theoretical doctor's office, if they call me theoretically and ask me theoretically for some help, I'd be happy to help them. And I think several other people here could be helpful too. A lot of us have had to deal with this sort of nonsense, and I think we could talk with them. One of the problems is that when my experience with doctors' offices in particular is that the physicians in charge and often the practice manager are very nervous about technology. At least that's been my experience. When I tried to talk with the people in these offices and I tried to tell them, this is really, my daughter needed a work permit and the doctor has to sign it. So they said, oh, you have to drive the permit to our office and leave it with us. I said, in the middle of COVID, you want me driving to your office? And they said, oh, we have a box outside the office. I said, that's not the point. Why can't we encrypt it? I can show you this free encryption. And they went bananas. They said, oh, we have this online system. You could sign into our online system. But that wasn't what they're really telling people, because everyone knows no one uses these portals and no one understands them. They didn't understand their own portal.
Hey,
But,
Adam,
yeah.
what I was going to say, a version of the same story that hits a little closer to home for any of us is come end of year, having some of your customers decide they're going to email you an unencrypted PDF, which is your 1099 that includes your social security number. And
Yes.
one of those was an accounting firm that
Oh
I
my
had.
God.
How about a client just putting all their files into a Word file, passwords into a Word file, much less emailing the Word file to you?
Yeah. Well,
So
Jeff,
you
I guess-
can't you just can't expect that just because they're in the profession they're going to be professional.
Well, it's really an education thing. We're an educational organization. So I encourage everybody, when you're talking with your doctor's office or these other places, tell them to get educated. Tell them to hire a good computer consultant or a security consultant and actually have them look at what they're doing and do a good job for them, because they're exposed whether they're ignorant or not.
Well, in my experience with the few accounting firms I've tried to point this out to, part of what the response is, well, it's a module we just dropped in, and I'm supposed to talk to the developer about this.
Yeah.
The other thing is my doctor's office, when I've been in there, I remember there was this UPS, supporting the computer, but it was having some trouble. And I said, hey, UPSs are a dime a dozen, or $50 or $80 a dozen. But my doctor said to me, she's not in charge of this. It's the Mount Auburn network of hospital, whatever. And the next time I was there, UPS was gone and the computer was just plugged into the wall.
That's how they solved it.
Yeah, that's the solution.
It's very interesting. The accountability in the medical system is so diffuse. I think it makes it really hard. Well, thank you all.
Yeah, thanks, Adam. This was great.
My pleasure. I had a really good time too. Good night, everyone.
Okay, good night. Thanks.